Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we're going to be recapping episode 51 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. Super fun episode. It was 5 hours long, but it didn't feel 5 hours long, which is always nice, because sometimes, there are moments where it feels like it drags on. There's not really too many moments in this episode where I was like, we can probably skip this. This one was fantastic, great, the ending's hype. Let's get into it. We start on the Silver Sun. Fern, FCG, Ira, and Xandis are the only ones aboard. They're making sure that the plan is ready to go and everyone knows what buttons and levers to push in case someone else needs to other than Xandis. Ira is at the end of the ship looking through a spyglass. He's not looking at the ground team, he's looking at the key. He says it's different from his original design and isn't sure how. He's going to have to get a closer look. FCG asks what Ira wants to happen at the end of the day. Ira says people don't ask him these things, but then says wanton destruction to get revenge and maybe grab a few things from the wreckage and laugh in my enemies' faces. Basically, wherever the wind takes him. FCG then asks for his 5-year plan. Does he have any plans for the future? Kids, maybe. Ira doesn't like discussing long-term plans. He's a goal-oriented person and doesn't look past those goals very much. Much more in-the-moment type of person. Much like Fern, FCG points out. FCG says that they need to be more like that. Fern says it can be bad sometimes, but it's more fun and carefree. Ira says the secret to being free is not having anything to hold them back, like friends. It's easier when they don't have those kind of loose ends. He then goes back to looking at the key through his spyglass. FCG and Fern wonder if they should call the team. They choose to do so. FCG sends a message to Aurum, as Imogen's voice is lost. Laura had seemingly lost her voice before this episode started, probably recording anime or a video game maybe. Or maybe she's just sick a little bit. Fern and Grass checking in. Have you made it inside? Are you safe? You gonna let us know when to go? How's Imogen's voice? Ira hates friends. Aurum's response, we've made it. Made some friends. Could use some help with a robot. Here letters. Any idea for getting it started? Might be changing plans. We're in the rim, or on the rim. FGG tells Fern this. They question if they should go down and help the others and leave Ira and Xandis on the ship. FGG believes this is what the Changebringer was telling them to do, to leave Ira and Xandis on the ship. Fern isn't sure. She wants one more coin flip. FGG flips the coin and says, we go. Fern drinks a potion of possibility, which gives her a reroll on a d20 when needed. FCG and Fern try to figure out how to make sure Ira saves Xandis. They call a group meeting. Fern tells them that she and FCG need to leave now, and they're leaving the two behind to make sure they crash the ship into the key. Ira says they can do this and looks at Xandis. FCG tells Ira it's important to save Xandis. FCG asks if they will make sure it'll happen. Ira says he's a man of his word and will save the captain. FCG insight checks and Sam gets a whisper. FCG asks how Ira will get them off. Ira says he can teleport one person a short distance if need be. FCG asks Fern if she's okay with this. Fern says yes and that she trusts Ira to do this. Fern says what she needs Ira to do is destroy. He will destroy. He's very happy about this. They will send a message to the team when the time comes to crash the ship into the key. FCG gives Xandis a potion of possibility and Xandis drinks it. Before Fern and FCG leave, Ira tells FCG that he thinks the key is missing a lens like the one they delivered to him. He thinks they might not be ready to go yet. FCG and Fern get off the ship and they are in a massive dust storm. Ira points them in the correct direction and they start to stealthily make their way. Fern is leading the way and FCG gives a guidance and a 27 roll of survival. This makes sure that they lose no time as they make their journey toward the other team. We cut back to the ground team. Aurum tells everybody that FCG called and asks what's going on. They wonder if they should wait or call them back. Chetney is almost out of his werewolf form, and he has no more of them today unless they short rest. Aurum asks what they should do with the robot. They wonder if they should try to hide it or fix it. At this moment, a pair of cloaked figures start moving towards the ground team. They plan on tricking the cloaked figures and say the automaton broke. One is a Paragon's Call member, a dwarf, and the other one is a Ruby Vanguard member. Laudna kicks the automaton as they get close. One figure asks Laudna in her mind what happened. She says it went haywire. The dwarf hits it and says these things suck. The other says to get someone to fix it now. Chetney sees the dwarf has a weapon and the other one is unarmed. They continue to rest until they see the two more figures coming near. It's FCG and Fern. Imogen talks to FCG in her head. They meet up. Orym says he wanted advice, not for them to come here. What is happening with Xanis and Ira? FCG says that Ira will make sure that Xanis is alright, but most of the party don't agree that he'll help. Laudna says he's a man of his word, and FCG and Fern agree with this, because that's what he said. FCG says he wants to destroy this more than betray the Hells. And that Ira gave them the information about the missing lens, so he's got to be on their side. Chetney suggests saying that they're here to deliver the lens, and they have the one that they gave to Ira initially, even though it doesn't work. Everyone loves this idea. Orym backs up to Ira and asks if they can be sure if Xanis will be alright. FCG and Fern tell him that they trust him, and he's a man of his word. FCG asks what they want to do with the automaton, or the warder. They want to use it to sneak in, and FCG says they can try to fix it. FCG looks inside and sees the power core is damaged, and understands what should be working in it based off their conversations with Joe and the professor. They look to see if they can find a way to plug themselves into it, and with a natural 20, they find a cord and pull it free from the warder. FCG takes their wire hair that they've had this entire time, and I didn't really notice on any of the art. I'm kind of foolish. And sort of hot wires themselves to said plug. As they do, the automaton kicks back on, and FCG feels a bit of their consciousness go into the warder, and they feel the body is an empty vessel. There's nothing else in it to combat FCG. FCG tries to stand up, and the warder gets up, and the tent goes flying as they do. It's up, and FCG tests out how it walks around a bit. They get a handle on it pretty quickly. Imogen recalls there are some of these warders in the dig site as well, so it should be able to fit in. The party get a full short rest, and they can fit up to 4 medium-sized people inside the warder. They try to figure out how to fit everyone inside of it. FCG asks about the new friends that they made. Orym tells FCG and Fern about Bo and Caleb, and they tell them about Ludinus possibly going crazy from the magic he's surrounding himself with, the mirror amps that seem to be all around the dig site, and the Mage Hunter Golem. They choose Imogen will stay outside, and Orym will be hiding inside the automaton's fist. The rest will be inside the warder. I'm just going to say warder instead of automaton. It takes 20 seconds for them to all get in and out of the warder. Imogen takes the lens just in case they need it. They remember they have to tell Xandis. So the criteria for calling Xandis is they get Rin, or shit hits the fan and they got no other option. Very clear criteria. They also wonder if they should call the Ashari now. Ashton says they should give them a 1 hour time limit, which would give them some time to go inside the dig site and look. But they want to see what they're up against, so they go to the edge of the rim here to look. They walk to the edge of the rim. They see a network of bridges, wooden walkways. They see pikes lining the side of the pit with all sorts of stuff hanging from them, mostly holy symbols, trophies from people who tried to attack this place before. And they also find and look at Judicator masks, which is quite intense. They start to make their way down the pit. They see signs of the original expedition before the Vanguard took over. They see the key in the middle with 4 other smaller spires sort of curling in toward it. Another pulse comes from it. The outside group see the pulse comes from 2 machines near the bottom, right near the key. FCG has to make a second, or has to take a second as the pulse sort of affects them. Imogen can't see what the machines look like from here. The dig site is super busy with people moving about. If they keep going down, it looks like they'll reach the bottom. This pathway spirals all the way down the dig site. When the magic pulse goes off, they can see that there is a mesh, like Caleb told them about, near the bottom. They recall that Bo and Caleb are going to help take this place out from the other side of the pit. They see there are about 10 minutes from the bottom. They go back to the Ashari plan. They choose it's best to have a distraction. Imogen is going to wait for the next pulse and then message right after. The next wave goes through. Imogen messages Keyleth. We're heading into the pit. If we start the clock now, you'll be here in an hour. That'll give us time to get rid of the anti-magic pulse. We're trying to take it out. Keyleth answers, okay, I'll gather forces. I have found the tree. Within an hour, likely we'll look for the sign. Orym is looking for glyphs that will paralyze them if they step on it, just like what happened to Rin, just in case during each pulse. Lana notices Pathé doesn't get dispelled in the anti-magic pulse. At this time, the party sees some people walking up the path toward them. They see two people as they walk, a half-elf woman and General Ratanish. God damn. Ratanish asks what they found and points to the hand of the warder. Orym puts the guts of a red berry on his face, I believe, to make it look like blood. Imogen says she found a prisoner, covering her face from Ratanish. FCG throws Orym down. Orym rolls a deception and rolls well. Ratanish kicks him and says they've heard rumblings of Vasselheim coming for another round, but doesn't think they'll make it in time. They pick up Orym and keep going. As they do, they see more tunnels on the left side, and there is tents inside this tunnel and a pile of bodies. They keep going down the path, and they're able to stealth their way down without anybody being too worried about anything. There is a couple of close calls with some people, but Imogen's able to deceive them. They can see the bottom, and they see that the size of the key a lot better, and the magic machines are all around it and near it. They see an arcane shell around the key. They see people reaching into crates and putting stuff inside other machines and near it and around it. They are putting potions of possibility inside of these machines. They see Odahan. She talks to someone. She drops 2 vials from her backpack, contraption, whatever thing it is, and puts 2 more potions of possibility inside of it and leaves. She goes down into a different tunnel. There's a lot of people here. They see Odahan go into a tunnel, and the tunnel looks freshly dug out. They don't see Rin from where they are. They have to move to the southern base of the key, and that is where they see a bunch of ruins of the old city that was once here before, and they see Rin's frozen stone body. They watch as a ton of people move past them and go between tunnels. Imogen tries to find a good hiding spot. There are a ton of alcoves and tunnels they can hide in. Orym gets a good look over most of the people down here and sees that they aren't a threat if it was just a few of them, but they are surrounded by them. Imogen looks for her mom, and as she looks around, she sees some Vanguard members, Paragon's Call members, and she sees people being put to work in chains, people who obviously don't want to be here. She looks up and sees on a catwalk a figure jump off and drift down. It is her mother gliding down. She watches her mother effortlessly lift a piece of metal up and places it on one of the other key spires to reinforce it. Another pulse comes out, and they see the machines creating the pulse are like spikes. The pulse seems to bounce off the walls. They don't necessarily need the mirrors. And Rin is inside the pulse, so that anti-magic pulse doesn't affect her being frozen. They look to see if the warder can fit into any of the tunnels. It looks rather snug. Orym says it's best to start a fight inside one of the tunnels, as there will be less people inside, probably. As that is where the cores are currently, inside the tunnels. They move toward the tunnel and try to go inside. People watch as they walk around down here, but don't really pay too much attention. Imogen tries to make it look like she's looking out for trouble down here. She does a good job of doing this and takes FCG to a storage alcove. It has a few tables and seems to not being used at the moment. They start to plan in the room. FCG says they can grab Rin. Orym says if they try something now, it likely won't go too well. Maybe it's best to go after Odahan. They could stay inside and walk from the tunnel to tunnel and try to mess shit up at each point. They choose to do that, and they hop back in the water and move on. As they move, Imogen can see that security is heightened. They pass by a group who looks her over. They don't seem to be too worried about her. They go into a different tunnel that Odahan went into initially. As they move, Orym sees magical glyphs on the ground and tells everyone about it and to stay away from it. As they get to the tunnel, they see a guard on post who nods his head at Imogen. Imogen nods back. He starts to light a cigarette, but Imogen tells him to put it out and then walks past them. She rolls a high enough deception check, and she isn't stopped by the guard as she walks by. FCG can't enter into this tunnel as the warder, but they open up the door and let everyone out. They see the tunnel is a long, dark path that winds down. The guard asks what she's doing, as the warder has stopped and makes some noise. She says it's none of his business in his head and scares him off. Laudna sends Pate down the path. He flies down and sees the tunnel spirals down into a fresh, open cavern. And in the back is a bunch of arcane power sources. They seem to be a mishmash of power cores tethered together and leads into the rock and goes up. He sees 3 figures, 2 Paragon's Call members and 1 Vanguard member, all looking to the exit. Pate is luckily invisible. Laudna lets everyone know what's down there. One of the guards is clearly nervous. Chetney says they can try to trick them to go up to the top. That deals with the guards maybe if it works, but destroying the cores will be loud. But they're going to make it up as they go and figure that out when they get there. FCG makes it look like they're doing busy work. Ashton, Orym, Chetney go with Imogen down the tunnel. As soon as they step into the cavern, the guards all go on edge. The Dragonborn Vanguard member immediately asks Imogen what they're doing here. She says that they're being attacked on the rim, and Ratanish asks for these people specifically. She rolls an 18 on her deception. The Dragonborn Vanguard member says they best get going. The Paragon's Call spread out, and the Vanguard member walks right past Imogen. As they do, Imogen hears in her head, "Well, let's see what you're made of." And Matt asks for initiative. This combat goes by really quick, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. The Dragonborn Vanguard member and the half-giant Paragon's Call member are killed within 2 turns, and the party spare the last one for information. During the combat, Imogen told FCG that stuff was going wrong, and Fern and Laudna joined combat, but literally just as it ends, FCG stayed up top and continues doing their busy work. Chetney puts a scythe to the last guy's chin and tells him he can live if he gives up. He drops his weapon, and Chetney tells Ashton and Orym to start dragging bodies away. Chetney sees the symbol of the Dusk Maiden on him, as that is a typical Paragon's Call thing. Chetney asks him how these cores work, and if he helps, he can go free. He doesn't know how they work. He says they put them here in the corner and take strings and run them through the wall. He doesn't really know. He's just a hired hand. Ashton asks him, what does he know? What does he know about what's happening? He does know, as Ludinus has spoken about it. He doesn't care for the gods and says that it's not personal, it's just a paycheck. Chetney says he'll get paid well if he helps. Laudna asks if there's a glyph on the ground. He points to the one right in front of the cores. He swears that it's the only one down here. They try to figure out how to just unplug the cores and not make too much noise. They search the Dragonborn and find a locket on his neck with a picture of a little girl inside. The party realize bad guys are people too, and they have reasons for what they're doing. Chetney looks to the cores and sees that they're all connected to wires, and they lead into the wall. Laudna checks the scryball and sees that Odahan is moving. FCG back up top sees Odahan moving toward the tunnel. The others are in. FCG messages Laudna and tells her that Odahan is coming. Odahan steps into the tunnel, and this is where Matt takes everyone to break. As Odahan gets closer, the Hells try to clean up the fight they just had, and they try to hide themselves in various places using various methods. Imogen turns around to try to blend in, and she preps a spell. Pate turns invisible once more. Liam and Marisha roll d20s, again, unspecified as to why, but it's believed that these are for Caleb and Bo. As Odahan walks in, everyone hears a large explosion as the two anti-magic machines up top explode, causing panic in the dig site. As Imogen hears this, she casts Mind Lance on Odahan, which she does not need to see her to cast it on her. Odahan fails but uses a legendary resistance to succeed instead, only taking 14 damage. Odahan runs back out to the dig site. As she leaves, FCG, who is holding a rock, chooses to throw it at her. Unfortunately, they roll a 12. Odahan, without much worry, pushes it aside and moves past FCG in their warder form, as she believes it was just an accident and the warder is going fucking haywire. The party can hear the chaos above them. During this, FCG sends a message to Ira to launch the airstrike. Ira is ready and excited to do so. The team near the cores starts smashing them to destroy them. FCG starts making their way to Rin. The team below hits one of the cores enough to detonate it. The other cores are damaged but don't blow. Ashton has some dynamite, but they don't want to make too much noise and be loud. Lana can cast Elder's Blast from a distance to make sure none of them take any more damage from these goddamn cores. She does so, and it detonates one of them, and then she strikes another one, detonating the other ones. They have done a ton of damage to these cores down here. FCG sees Imogen's mom flying around, seemingly giving orders to others in their mind. FCG also sees two flashes, a large metal creature, probably the Mage Hunter Golem, and Ludinus appear. FCG tries to weave through the crowd to get to Rin, rolls a deception, rolls a dirty 20, passing the check. FCG sees Ludinus and Liliana silently talking. FCG is about 30 feet away from them. FCG looks to see what's near Rin. There is a ruined wall. FCG tries to make it seem like they're trying to move this wall and grab Rin in the same action, or in the same motion. They roll a 5 on their deception check. They hit a part of the wall that is load-bearing. This causes the wall to fall on Rin. The whole chamber, or dig site, looks at them as there was just a terrorist attack in the chamber just moments ago. FCG makes an oops motion and rolls a 23 deception. This tricks everyone. Liliana leaves. Ludinus waves his hand over the warder, and the warder turns off. FCG is now stuck and can't see. Chenny asks Ashton to take care of the guard. They go up to him and says, "This is the plan," and as he's saying it, snaps his neck. Very sad. The party choose to try to blend in and move about as the chaos is happening. As they leave, some guards run down the tunnel. The group deception check goes well, so they aren't stopped and they're able to pass with no problems. As they exit, they hear a single voice that says they have some others here that aren't supposed to be here, and the timetable has changed, and everyone is to gather at the key. It's Odahan's voice. The party choose to go around and avoid the larger group. Orm sees FCG in the warder stuck in place. The party watches as a figure begins to fall from the sky and is grabbed. Caleb has been grabbed by the Mage Hunter Golem. On the other side of the dig site, Bo comes down the path and joins the conversation. Ludinus thanks them for joining, as they are expected guests. Bo is moved to the center of the chamber next to the key with Caleb, and they're both shackled, one by the just regular chains and Caleb by the Mage Hunter Golem. The enemy picked up Rin, who has one arm broken off. The party keep going to the next set of cores. It is in their best interest to try to take this shit out. Ludinus puts his arm into the spire, and green energy starts to flow through it, powering it. Liliana opens up the spire, and inside is a 12-sided shape, a dodecahedron. Wonder what that does. Ludinus says it's time to bring him to us. A pulse of energy goes off. Everyone is frozen in place, and hours pass by in seconds. Ludinus pulls his hand out, and it's gone all dark and seems to be fucking worthless. Matt brings out a really sick map. Like, the maps he's been using lately are friggin' top tier, and I love this new camera they do, which, like, shows us, like, a cool, like, battlefield angle of it all. It's really cool. Really like that stuff. Ludinus looks up and cocks his head to the side strangely as something blocks the moon a bit and is descending rapidly toward the ground. FCG tries to start the warder again. Everyone hears a high-pitched whine as the silver sun is racing toward the spire. Ludinus puts a force field up around the spire, and the spire is unfortunately fine, but the people all around it are destroyed. Tons of people are dead, bodies everywhere, screaming in chaos, people screaming in pain. Laudna looks for Ira and Xandis. FCG tries to get out of the water, but can't open the door. Laudna sees two forms appear in the path, going down to the dig site. One tall and skinny, one shorter. The one snickers off in a very creepy way, and the other one panickingly runs back up the path. Fern brings out Mister. Imogen thinks about how long it's been since she made the call to the Ashari. It's been roughly an hour, so they should be here soon. Fern sees Bow's shackles and thinks about casting heat metal on them, but doesn't quite yet. Imogen and Chetney move closer to the Mage Hunter Golem. Laudna sends Ira a message saying they took out a power core and asks what they should do next. Ira says a frontal attack is suicide, and he'll see what he can do on the other side of the chamber. The rest of the party start moving up as well. Liliana's up in the sky and calms those still alive. Ludinus says the greatest lie ever told is that we need them, saying that they manipulated the people into following them and giving them power. Imogen tries to cast command on the Mage Hunter Golem, who fails its check and lets go of Caleb, but the anti-magic collar is still around his neck. Ludinus continues saying that the Titans made this world and the gods took it to harvest us for all eternity. Chetney tries to sneak up to the warder. Orym tries to sneak up to the warder that FCG is inside. As he tries to move up, one of the enemies grabs a hold of him and tells him to stop and listen. Orym does stop. Ludinus continues his speech and says that they killed one of them, and one of us became one of them. They feared us then. Orym knocks the guy out holding him. No one sees this, and he moves up. Chetney also moves up toward the spire, or the key. Laudna chooses to go for a different power core, and Ashton joins her. Imogen turns invisible. FCG casts Enhance ability on themselves for strength. Orym moves up to the warder. FCG still can't get themselves out. Ludinus says that the calamity was not a tragedy. It was a punishment for us for following our own path. They hide behind their gate out of fear, and they try to control us from there. Orym uses the vines from Seedling to help FCG get out of the warder. Liliana sees this and aims at Orym. Imogen says "Mama" to her and says it doesn't have to be like this. Liliana can't see her. Imogen says she loves her mom and that better halves make better wholes. Liliana stops aiming her magic at Orym. Liliana says she told Imogen to run. This is the only way to be free. Imogen disagrees and says this is just what he told her. How does she know he's telling the truth? Liliana says she just knows he was. There's another explosion from somewhere else. Chetney turns invisible and tries to climb the key but doesn't get very far. Laudna and Ashton continue to move toward the cores. Liliana turns toward the explosion and sees Ira, aims a spell at him, and he is banished, which is very bad news for him because he's from a different realm. So if she can keep that concentration, he's stuck. Fern looks at the key to try to see what's important. Maybe she can use her ring of telekinesis to pull it off. Lots of things look important on it. Ludinus looks to FCG and says that they weren't given life by the gods but were created by us. Ludinus says they can try to stain his work, but he's worked for 1,000 years for this. It's not possible to damage it. At this point, the party can hear the fighting up top. The Ashari are here. Laudna and Spider climbing into the tunnel. Ashton is carefully making their way through, trying to avoid glyphs on the ground. Laudna Eldritch blasts the cores, doing some damage to it. She does it again, blowing up one of the cores. The rest of the party watch some of the magic in the key die off. Imogen hears from her mom saying it's already done, it's going to be okay. Imogen says it's not too late. Liliana says he's too strong. Ludinus says the root is born are seeds of Predados' power. All the root is born begin to show a red mist coming off of them, including Imogen and Fern. Chetney climbs the key continues to climb the key. Laudna hits one of the cores again. It's not doing much damage. Ashton lights their dynamite and runs with Laudna. Ludinus continues to talk and says, "Tonight we release him and his children take the world." A large boulder slams into the ground and an earth elemental stands from where it landed and says, by the voice of the Tempest, "Stop this," and heals the battlefield. Ludinus stuns Keyleth with Power Word Stun. Odahan comes out of nowhere, all three of her, and they swarm Keyleth. Everyone near the key enter battle, so basically everybody but Laudna and Ashton. Odahan goes first. She hits Keyleth, dealing a lot of damage, and Keyleth is knocked prone, and then is barraged by even more strikes. FCG takes some of the damage from two of the strikes that land on Keyleth by Odahan are criticals. She has a lot of health being an earth elemental and being a powerful person in general. Odahan is absolutely blasting her with 6 attack each, and then action surges on her again. Odahan does enough damage to knock her out of elemental form. So that was easily a solid 3 to 4.5 minutes of Matt just rolling dice, dealing damage to Keyleth. As Odahan goes in for the kill, there's a flash of black and a cloak of feathers. A figure wearing a cloak of feathers appear with a raven mask and daggers in each hand. He says, "Don't you dare. It's a motherfucking Vax. Badass as shit." It's FCG's turn, finally. FCG tries to dispel the collar on Caleb, but it doesn't work. Too low of a spell. Or too low of a roll. I'm keeping that in. That's staying in. That's perfect. It's Orm's turn now. He runs up and swings over to Odahan. He slashes on the contraption on her back, dealing 12 damage to it. Hits it again, dealing 10 damage to it. And then his third and fourth strike miss, unfortunately. Fern is up. Fern casts Scorching Ray at the backpack as well, but misses all 3 of her Scorching Rays. She then tells Mister to aim his gun at it. Unfortunately, he misses as well. It's Liliana's go. She holds her action. Chetney is up. He turns into a werewolf and jumps up to Ludinus and tries to backpack him, trying to hold on to him and hold his hands to the side. But as he gets to Ludinus, Ludinus shields, blocking Chetney, and Chetney falls onto the sharp part of the key and is impaled by it. Man, Travis's characters loves getting impaled by shit. Like, that's crazy. Imogen is up. Imogen tries to witch bolt the backpack, but even with advantage, she still misses. Imogen asks her mom for help, but can't convince her mother in this moment. Her mom says this is for the best. It's Ludinus' turn. He puts his hand into the key, yet again, the other hand this time. Liliana turns all the mirrors onto Vax, and bright lights shine onto him. He is pressed into a sphere of darkness and is placed into the machine as the lens. Ludinus says, "It's time." As everyone looks up to the sky, they see the Vasselheim ship show up. All of the Ruidusborn stand straight up, and red energy goes from them to the key. A large beam of red energy fires up into the sky towards Ruidus. All of these sky ships crumble away at the force of this. Ludinus smiles. 1,000 years. You couldn't stop me. It's too late, and starts laughing maniacally. The ley lines begin to brighten up. The sky turns red, and then explodes into a colorful ley line explosion, and then turns into a pitch white light. This white feels very familiar, and it fills the area, blinding everybody. Laudna's vision comes back to her. She's in an unfamiliar place on a cliff's edge. She sees Ashton next to them. Ashton thinks they've won. They look up and see Orm is on the cliff edge as well. Laudna looks up at the stars. They are the same. Ashton and Orm see no one else. Off in the distance, they can see Ruidus and a red beam going into it. They question if they're still on Marquette. We cut to FCG, hitting something soft, and sees a bit of morning light from where they are. And they see they are on white dunes of snow. They look around and see nothing, just white dunes. As they move, they see mountains off in the distance. They get to the top of the dune and they see a large open area of snow. They also see a forest covered in snow and an ocean off in the distance, and some more mountains. They also see Fern getting out of the snow herself. They ask if she's still herself. She feels like herself. They look for the others. Chetney hears for them all calling out to him. Imogen also hears them. As their vision comes back, They all decide to meet up, or they all meet up and ask for where Orym, Ashen, and Laudna are. They aren't here. Chetney looks around, and he knows where they are. They're in the Crystal Sand Tundra. He's near his hometown of Uthadern. In the sky, they can all see the ley line still, and the solstice is still going on as well. And that's when Mat ends the episode. Mat does point out one more thing, that they did in fact see Ira come back as one of the spells that Liliana casts took away her concentration. So Ira is back. Just wanted to put that out there before moving on. So there you have it. That is the end of episode 51. Super fun, super enjoyable. Didn't feel as long as it actually was because it was literally 5 hours long. And yeah, it didn't feel that way. It felt really quick, really fun, high impact, high energy, lots of good things going on. I can imagine there's going to be some people who are upset with the Vax appearance because lots of people don't like the references as is. I personally like it. I think it makes a lot of sense for Vax to show up and protect his love. And yeah, so if you don't like that, I get where you're coming from, but I personally like it because it's kind of cool. It's the first time we've seen Vax since the end of, technically since the Daelin's Closet episode. So it's been a long time. It's probably been around I'm pretty sure it's been around 30 years for the character in World since he's shown up in a capacity like this. So that's really cool. I get the feeling he's not supposed to be there. Something about it just seems like he's breaking some rules, so I'm kind of excited to see where that potentially leads, if he's going to be axed off or not. Who knows? I don't know if he can be, but it's really cool. Really liked seeing Vax show up. It was really fun. Yeah, and those roles for Bo and Caleb did not go well. They got caught, so that was pretty cool. Very fun episode. The only thing I'm not a big fan of, and it's very minor to me, was Ludinus being able to perfectly protect the key. I feel like the ship should have done some more damage. Yes, it took out a massive portion of the enemies, but it should have done a little bit of damage to the key. A little bit. Like the shield should have broken a little bit, and the key should have been a little bit partially damaged, giving the players a bit more of a chance. But that's my only minor thing. So, simple as that. Really enjoyed this episode. Really fun. See you guys on Tuesday for my next video, whatever that's going to be. And see you guys on Friday. Peace.